7 in the morning. We're back there smoking cigarettes, you know, like, yeah, getting ready to go. And I hear the machine start up, and I look, I go, what are you doing? He goes, I'm going to finish these last few. And I heard a, whoomp, and, you know, and he fed that thing in straight into the blade. Well, that cutter head was probably that tall and that big around. You know, it's a 5 horsepower motor, man. So you got to kind of ease that in there. Once you ease it in there, he's watching me. I just ease it up. Once the cutter head and the ball bearing, the guide hits the jig, then you can zzz, you know, but you can't just jam it in there. And he did, and it yanked it out of his hand, and it shredded these 2 fingers here. This one was shredded down, and then it grabbed about that much of his thumb was gone, but it grabbed the bone. That cutter head, as it's going around, you know, it grabbed the bone and yanked the bone out all the way to here, you know. So his whole, I think they pulled a bone out of somewhere else and stuck it in there, but you know, that guy was a dipshit, man. And then he ended up paroling a couple weeks after that, and we sent, that machine was wired backwards. You had to turn it on reverse to get it to run normal. So after that happened, they put in a work order and had it fixed. And we shot that work order out to his family and said, hey, that dude, you know, sue him, you know. And what's that dumb motherfucker do? He gets caught breaking into a newspaper machine trying to steal the quarters out of a newspaper machine instead of suing him for all that. You know, he could have made some fat money. You know, that's drugs for you, you know. But, you know, from there I ended up getting bored with that job, working First Watch, and I went in the kitchen. You know, I was a cook. And, you know, cooking's cool, but it's a whole nother deal, you know, because, well, actually, I worked in the sandwich crew for a while, and this female sergeant says, hey, we need a white dude to be a cook. You want to be a cook? I told her, yeah, sure, you know. So I went to be a PM cook, man, and we cooked steaks, burgers, you know, we're cooking, you know, 4,000 steaks, 4,000 hamburgers, you know, you got to feed everybody. And that prison's an older prison, so they have one kitchen for the whole joint. You know, it was cool, man. We ate good. I got to take food home, you know, and it was cool. I liked that job, man. I told you some of the escapades with the hamburger, you know. You know, I'd fry hamburgers as a piece of paper in between each burger, you know, and I'd put the stacks of burger, I'd toss them into the trash can over the papers, and this kid would come from the back dock and then take the cans back there and package up the burgers, man. And that CC, that Cook 3, he was, you know, this Filipino dude, he was watching me, and Danny told me, yeah, don't do that, you know. But they were on it. They were on me. But still, they didn't catch me, you know. That's one thing I like about them jobs too. Like when you're doing stuff, you know, everybody has their own hustle, you know, and guys look out for each other, you know. So I like that. Back in the day, you know, and like that guy looked out for me, told me, hey, they're watching you, you know, don't do that. He was a Northern Mexican, you know, but you know, there was a lot of respect there. We actually had a lot of fun together, working together, and so from there I went down to Donovan, you know, and I worked there as a plumber for quite a while. I worked there as a plumber for 3.5 years before I transferred, and so that job right there, actually I worked as a carpenter, and then I met my boss, who was later, she's like, hey, why don't you come work with me? Because the carpenter shop boss was she was kind of an a-hole, and she didn't come to work all the time. So I started working as a plumber, man, and you know, when I first started, you know, I ran there was a dope fiend on the crew. I ran him off, and then I became like the lead man of my crew. And we would go to the yard every day, check the buildings, check the work orders. You know, you're fixing guys like this new prisons, man. The water setup is on an air throw system, so the guy's water's running consistently. You know, they got to have it fixed. We fix that. We fix plugged toilets. We fix toilets that don't shut, flush, you know. But also they had water mains that feed the buildings. These pipes would blow out. They'd rot out. For some reason, the soil in that prison, Donovan, just would eat those pipes up. They redid the whole system. But, you know, I did 4 or 5 units, man, where the water mains would blow out of the back of the building. And what would trip me out is it's called no man's land. It's between the back of the building and the double fence. And, you know, inmates aren't supposed to be out there, but when they have a problem like that and they need that shit fixed, I went out there one time, it was like 10 o'clock at night. We worked till 1 in the morning fixing a water main blowout, man. And we got a backhoe and a truck and a bunch of tools. And Yeah, could have easily gotten that backhoe and pulled that fence down, you know. But that's the level of trust they have for guys when you work every day, and I'm going to yards every day. COs, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, they all see you every day, and they know, and they get reports, say, hey, what's that guy up to? They ask, you know, that's stupid. So there was a level of trust that was built up, and so, you know, I was an emergency plumber, man. If they had something wrong after hours, they would call me, you know, and I had a little after hours cart. I'd be by myself, going from building to building, man, and you know, fixing you know, people's water. I'd go to the reception sometimes, man, and they had a reception unit on the reception yard, and the cop would just throw me the keys to the pipe chase and say, go ahead and handle it, you know, because there's no other key on the ring other than the one that fits a pipe chase. It's not like you're going to run off. And then later on, you know, he told me, yeah, some fucking asshole, some other cop that worked the bubble, you know, where the gun is, ratted on him for letting me go around and open the pipe chases by myself, which is stupid, you know. And yeah, but then there was that cop there at Donovan. He shot that kid in the hole. Then he was out on the main line. They took him out of the hole and put him in a mainline unit on the yard I worked on. And you know, he was a real prick. One day he's waxing the floors, and he's like, I made a big thing about us, you know, real assholey, you know, and like, can't come in the building right now because we're waxing the floor. Well, you know, I'm like, you know, whatever, but he was a shithead about it. So I talked to my boss, Lola. I said, hey, man, let's put this asshole on restriction, you know. And so we didn't go in that building for over a month, almost 2 months, I think. And man, them guys are pissed off about it. They had to call the emergency plumbers every night to fix their shit. And they're always on that cop. We told them, hey, that cop's a fucking prick. We're not going in that building till that prick gets right. And finally that cop broke down and asked us, man, will you please, you know, come in the building? Not to me, but to my supervisor, you know. And so finally we went in there, and that guy couldn't have been nicer. You know, could have been. So that's another benefit of having that job, you know, is you earn respect, and you know, like if I went in a building and a cop is an asshole from somewhere else and I didn't like him, you know, after hours emergency plumber, I'd tell him, hey man, I don't have the parts, I can't fix that, sorry. And I'd walk out of the building. There's nothing he can do because I'm working after hours and he don't know if I got the parts or not. So you know, that was kind of cool. You know, suck it, right? I mean, that's my way of saying suck it, you know. And so it was cool. You know, then when I went to Corcoran, of course, I worked in the PIA wood factory, you know. I worked in it was a wood section of, they made modular office furniture, and they made some really shitty stuff. And I have to say that one thing about PIA furniture nowadays, it's garbage, you know, and they charge way too much for it. But they made tack boards there, right? It's got a frame with a piece of soundboard, and they put fabric on it, and it's a tack board, you know, for tacking notes onto and shit. And they were using cottonwood, which is the nastiest wood. It gets all bowed, and it's just shitty wood. And they ran out, and they're like, well, this is when I first started. And I said, well, you know, using shitty ass wood, you know. So I had them I said, go out and order a unit, a poplar, 1-inch poplar, and they did. And I said, no, they had a big 18-inch table saw there, big 18-inch blade, it's huge, but it had a lock on the start button. And I says, well, you know, open this thing up. They go, well, nobody ever uses this saw. I said, well, I'm gonna use this saw. And I guess the last dude that used it, you know, he was doing something and the saw blade just cut his fingers open, you know, sideways. I guess he didn't know what the fuck he was doing. But anyway, you know, I made all the wood for the frames for the tack boards. It required several cuts, you know. And then I made all the tack boards, and I met their deadline. And they were pretty excited because they were getting the tack board frame. They would just get big long strips of wood and you cut it to length. They were getting it from San Quentin, from another prison industry. And I go, you know, why are you buying it from them guys? And that's a little shady hustle PIA guys going on. Because the guy that runs this PIA works with the guy that runs this PIA, and they figure out ways to make money for each other. It's just shady setup, man. Because anything the state uses, if PIA makes it, they're required to buy it from PIA, even if it's garbage and even if it costs more than they could buy it in a free world, you know. So yeah, so anyway, they were happy with what I was doing, and they ended up buying me an automatic feeder for the table saw. They got me some dado blades. They got anything I wanted, you know. And then I would walk around the shop, because they hire guys. They say, put this piece of wood here, clamp it down, push this button, you know, pull this lever, push the wood here, there, you know, make a cut. That's all they know how to do. They don't know what that machine will do. They don't know how that machine works. And so that's one thing I was so grateful for Schnooks for, and the milling cabinet, is I learned on old school machines how to machine wood, you know, and so all the cuts were coming out wrong. Like certain doors that have a slot here and a slot here, and they put guides in there, you know, and they're off. This side might be off a 1/16 of an inch, and then this side would be off 3/16, and then the next cut, this one's off a 1/2 inch, and it just, every cut was different, man. So I went from machine to machine to machine, because there were down times when I wasn't having no wood to cut, you know. So I would go to this machine, check out what was going on. They'd tell me, you know, that the cuts were wrong, and I'd remake the jig, set it up there, you know, and the cuts would be perfect. Then I go to the next machine. Hey, what's up with this machine? The cuts are wrong. Well, same thing. And so, you know, my boss called me over there, and he's up on a big podium. He was actually a metal worker, but he was like supervising a wood shop for a while. And he goes, what are you doing? You know, and I told him, you know, I'm remaking these jigs, man, so we get the cuts right, you know. And he said, oh, really? You know, he looked, and he was watching me do it. And he goes, where'd you learn how to do all that stuff? This is 96, 97, 98, you know, Corcoran. And most of the dudes in there are morons, you know, to be honest with you. They don't know how to do shit. They never had a job. They want to go to PIA and make money. They don't go to vocation first and then go to PIA. So anyway, I tell him, you know, he says, where'd you learn how to do that at? I tell him, at prison. You know, I've been in prison my whole life. So he was like, wow. And he was blown away that I learned how to do that stuff in prison. And I'm like, well, you know, that's what prison's for, you know. So anyway, I worked there for a couple years, you know. Then I went down to Lancaster, and I worked in Arts and Corrections, which is a long story. And then, you know, I went back to Donovan from there because my points went down to level 2. And I worked as a plumber again for another 3.5 years with Lola. And then I went to San Quentin. And after that, you know, by then, I was to the point where I was tired of working for the state, you know. And so I would just get a job where I didn't have to show up, like San Quentin when I was there. I got a job in the nighttime. They just take the trash out of the building and put it in the trash cans. And I would give these kids cigarettes, man, to do my job for me. And I just go to hobby and do woodwork and paint, and that's what I did. You know, by now, you know, I had, you know, 30-something years in, whatever. I was just like, you know, fuck working for the state. I'm going to do my own thing. But working in the hobby, making stuff out of wood for myself, that's a job. I mean, it was just like having a job. I'd go down there every day, cut wood, then I'd go home at night and paint. So I was working, but I was pretty much working for myself, you know. Anyway, yeah. I want to tell you something, man. All you guys, I met guys in prison. I worked around some real shitbags in prison. I worked around guys in the kitchen that told me, oh, I don't work on the street. And I said, well, why don't you work on the street? They said, fuck that, man. I just want to get high. I said, you're working in prison for 15 cents an hour so you can get something to eat. And trust me, kitchen work in prison sucks. If you're not a cook, you're doing other shit, it sucks. I said, you're in here working for 10 or 15 cents an hour, but you won't work on the streets for, you know, 10 or 15 bucks an hour. Then, fuck that. I just want to party. So I got a real bad opinion about guys coming in off the street with these dope cases because it just was not the same as the old school days, you know. But, yeah, I mean, you know, and then you get jobs like before I got out, I did work in the laundry for a hot minute. We had this kid in there, man. He was a black kid. You know, I kind of liked him, but he was a lazy fuck. He was always loaded, coming in loaded, tired, showing up late. And that's what you got to deal with in prison, man. You got to deal with a bunch of guys that don't want to work, and they got a job, and they're making the same amount of money as you. And it's like, dude, you're making my life miserable. So I used to clown that dude. I used to call him all kinds of names, you know, tell him he was a lazy fuck, you know, just insult him, insult his family, and finally I ran him off. And his homeboys would be like, hey man, because he was a black kid, like, hey man, what's up with you and this dude, you know, Slim? And I said, hey man, fuck that dude, you know. I'd give him the picture, and they're like, yeah, okay, cool, you know, because you know, guy was making our life hard. And you know, I don't know how it is out here in the world, but you know, if I got a coworker that's a piece of shit and he's making my life miserable because he's not carrying his weight, I'm gonna ride his ass until he quits. That's what I did on the plumbing crew, you know. I ran that dude off. He was a lazy fucking dope fiend. He wanted to use his job to hustle, and he didn't want to do his work. So you know, I ran him off. You know, that's how you work it, man. I mean, I think that's what any you know, normal man would do. I mean, out here in the world now, everybody's all sensitive with skinny jeans and man buns and shit. But to me, that's what a man does. He does his fucking job. And if there's some piece of crap on the job that's not towing his weight, he's not holding the weight, you know, pulling the line, you run him off, you know, or whatever. Beat him down the parking lot. I mean, whatever it takes, man. You know, I'm out here in the world, I'm doing this, and like I said before, I like to work, I like to make money, and you know, in the past, making money meant selling dope, and I'm not down with selling dope. I don't fucking participate. I don't buy, use, or sell drugs, man, so, I mean, I gotta work, so I'm doing the t-shirt thing, I'm selling my artwork, and I'm having a good time, but I'm also gonna get, as soon as this coronavirus thing is over, I'm gonna get on at the gas station 30 hours a week to bring in a little extra money. You know, my wife's like, hey, I don't want you working, I want you to do your art, I want you to do your t-shirts. I'm like, I'm going to do that, but I want to contribute, man. I have a hard time living out here and not contributing. And she's like, well, you're contributing, you got a business, you know, but, you know, I want to do more. You know, it's not a whole lot. 30 hours a week ain't a whole lot. Still allows me time to do this stuff back here and talk to you folks. And so I'm going to do a little bit of both. And, yeah. That's where I'm at, you know. You know, like I said, man, when I was talking to Silva, you know, I went back to this prison after being gone 20 years, man, and I seen this cop up by medical, and, you know, and I said, yeah, last time I saw you, you were out on the back dock, and I ain't seen this guy for 20 years, and I only worked for that guy for about 3 months. And he looked at me, his eyes got real big, and he's like, he goes, man, last time I saw you, man, it's been 20 years. And he told this other cop, he goes, man, this is the best worker I ever had, ever. You know, and I was just like, wow. Because when I worked on the back dock with him, he came up, you know, I had a big bowl of cereal, plate of eggs and bacon, you know, and all this, and I'm eating, and he goes, I want this done, this done, this done, this done. I'm like, yeah, sure. You know, and he's standing there like, get up and do it. And I said, look, I don't do shit until I'm done eating. And he's like, yeah, all right. You know, and when I was done eating, we took care of business. You know, I got the crew organized, and yeah, so I mean, that's what work does. People respect guys that work. People respect guys that are smart. When I work in a machine shop out here grinding metal, you know, I listen to the boss, and I like what they're doing. I admire guys that are smart, and they work smart, and they work safe, and they work hard. You know, people respect that, man. So, you know, if you're a young dude out here in the world, they got trades available, and you can get a grant to get a trade. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you're a plumber, if you're a machinist, electrician, you can make a gang of money. And they need electricians, plumbers, and machinists bad. And they need welders. So if you can learn one of those trades, man, you know, especially plumbing, man. I worked as a plumber. You know, it's hard work, but you know what? They'll pay you out here in California. You can make like 25 bucks an hour as an apprentice while you go to school to learn to be a plumber and work as a plumber. So, I mean, there's money in it. You know, don't sit around, pick your ass, and think it, you know, that there's some kind of free ride, because there ain't no free ride, man. And even if there is, a free ride sucks. Having a fat stack of cash in your bank account, come on, man. For a little hard work, it ain't shit, right? So, all right, folks, listen, I want to talk to you guys about the coronavirus. I told you I know someone that works at the hospital. And they said that the United States is a new epicenter for the virus. There's like 100 people a day dying. It's bad. The thing is, this thing spreads faster than the flu. It's more contagious. So wash your hands thoroughly, right? Don't touch your face. This shit lives on cardboard for 4 hours. It lives on hard surfaces for 10. It stays in your clothing for up to 30 hours. They recommend detergent that has a little bleach in it. Like I got some Clorox Plus. It's got a little bleach. Wash your clothes. Just be safe, man. Don't, anytime you go out of your house somewhere and come back, wash your hands good. Not just sanitizer. Soap and water works better than sanitizer. So, please be careful and just be safe, man. I don't want to lose anybody. It's part of our hard crew. Yeah, you only live once, right? So take your safety serious, right? Be hard about your safety. Do it hard. Thank you very much, folks. Thanks for watching.